Hi everyone, Northern Carolina Harms here, and it's time for a review of the new JDS album, Craxis, The Journey. Rapper, producer, singer, songwriter, Joseph Schultz, aka JDS, is back with a brand new LP which details the emotional trauma that he had to experience as a result of his move from Arizona to North Carolina. This album contains three different parts: anger, regret, and acceptance. And each of these are indicated by the different ways that he titles them. Anger is indicated by all caps. The regret section has a bunch of periods in the title, and then acceptance is titled pretty normally. And each of them are separated by various interludes, which can really show the specific mindset that he was in at the time of the song, chronologically speaking. The intro actually sets all this up and goes through every single emotion, but with an instrumental. You use an instrumental to indicate anger. You use the instrumental to indicate regret. Use an instrumental to indicate acceptance. And I think he does this very, very well with the intro. I think the intro was a really good way to open up the album. The first actual song is Falling, which goes into detail about the actual events of the move. Has lines like, "Boxes started to appear to my surprise," really putting you in his shoes, really detailing the exact way that he was feeling about his move. It's kind of a bit of like a storytelling track, to be honest. And it really shows the anger that Joseph felt with his parents as a result of his move. And I think it was written very, very well, with him literally explaining to you word for word the exact events that happened. I think it was written perfectly. And from my understanding, it was a complete surprise to him and his siblings that they were going to move all of a sudden. And they had no idea why. They didn't really understand the process, and they didn't really have any input in it either, which is why Joseph felt so angry with his parents for making him move. But he gives some potential reasons in his mind why they might be moving. Golden years were finally up as one potential reason for why they might have decided to move then. But also his delivery is amazing throughout the entire track. He really portrays his anger really well with his delivery and his performance on the song. I also really love how he has so many vocal layers on the chorus. The beat really builds up around it as well. Perfectly produced. Really love the dark chords. I think that they're very memorable as well, and a really great way to open up the album. And the end of the song, great ending to the song. Falling but still won't hit the ground. Falling but still won't hit the ground. Repeated over and over again. Makes it very memorable ending to this track. And I really like it. I think it really shows like what his mindset was like at the time. He could tell that he was falling. He could tell he was falling mentally, but he hadn't hit the ground yet. So he didn't think he would hit the ground. But then later on, we'll get to Ripped Away, where he will actually hit the ground, in my opinion, mentally. That's the lowest I think that he can possibly get in this situation. But anyway, this track transitions perfectly into There I Was, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but every single one of these songs transitions very well into the next one for the most part. There are some where I'm a bit iffy on, but I'll get to that a little bit later. But for the most part, a lot of the transitions they deserve lots of props. They're really good. But There I Was, the second actual song, takes place immediately after the move, where Joseph is just feeling lonely because all his friends are back in Arizona. He doesn't have any friends yet in North Carolina, so he's just alone, contemplating the whole situation. And he begins to contemplate suicide also as a result, which very heartbreaking in general to listen to, but especially for someone that's close to him and has experienced some similar thoughts. It definitely is hard verse to listen to. But he also doesn't feel like he can open up to his family about the extreme emotions that he was dealing with as a result, especially, I guess, with how probably excited his parents all were about moving, but also because I can relate to this, you don't want them to worry about you or anything, so you don't really want to open up. I think this song, the lyrics really hit you more so than Falling does. The lyrics on this are just amazing. And it transitions well, once again, into Drowning, which one of my favorite songs on the entire project, if not my favorite. Probably my favorite chill song on the whole thing. And this was one that is entirely produced by Joseph, and I have to give him massive props for this. It is very impressive when someone can produce the entire thing and mix the entire thing, write the entire thing. This one is all 100% him. So I got to give massive props to that for making my favorite song entirely on his own. But also, I think one reason that it is my favorite song is just I tend to like Joseph more when he is singing as opposed to his rapping. I think the auto-tune can fit his vocals very, very well. I also love on this specific track, his delivery is really good, and I love the kind of watery vocal effects that he puts on, as well as actual sounds of water flowing on the track. And I think it really puts you in the mood. And I also really love the line too. The lyrics are really good too. It's a very minimalistic song, but it works really, really well in context of the album. I really like the line, "What happened to my home?" which really goes to show that he is still living in denial, still questioning what happened. I think it was just executed perfectly. I think production-wise, he did a really excellent job as well, how he kind of built it up, and then he stripped it down to just like some very basic kind of watery little chill piano chords, with the very soft singing in the background. It just works really, really well. And it transitions really well, once again, into Ripped Away. Actually, the piano melody from Ripped Away is played at the end of Drowning, and it continues on to the actual song, which I love that transition. I think that one is really good. But this is where we finally hit rock bottom, and this song is honestly very difficult to listen to. He combines his anger and his sadness to convey just how upset that he is with his parents for ripping him away from his home. And all this is done over that one piano melody, which I think is played excellently throughout the entire song. I don't know who played it or who produced this song, but I think it was produced really, really well. I don't think it's easy to make a song with just piano, but make it really interesting. But they built it up. Whoever was playing it grew in intensity, as well as Joseph growing in intensity in his vocals as well throughout the track, and his rapping, all leading up to his eventual suicide attempt at the end of the song, which comes as a very big surprise to me. And I don't know if that attempt actually occurred or not, but regardless, I think it hits really, really hard. So from Ripped Away, we move into the regret section, which means, unfortunately, we are also moving out of my favorite section of the album. And it begins with an interlude, I believe To a New Place interlude is what it is called, which contains audio from memories that Joseph had in Arizona. I think it's a great interlude, really adds to the whole album experience. Really shows that he's still living in denial. He's still just reminiscing on all the good times he had in Arizona, but it's kind of more depressing because he's like, that's in the past. He can't make any more of those memories with those friends for now. But I do think, like, even though I don't know anybody really from the Arizona interlude, I just think it's really cool how he includes all his friends on his interludes. And in the project really makes all those people feel really involved in it. And I will say at the actual album listening party, I think it was pretty cool to hear everybody's voice from the party just in the actual album. I think that was pretty cool to make everyone there truly feel a part of the project. But back to what I was saying, yeah, my favorite part of the album, easily the anger section. I think that this is easily the best part of the entire album. But sadly, after that, the album becomes a little more hit or miss for me. And I think that when Joseph does miss in the next two sections, I think he really does miss, unfortunately. And personally, the next track, Craxis Beautiful Dreamer, is my least favorite song on the entire project. I mean, I like some of the lyrics. For example, I like "Funny how new friends can make an old life go away." I think that is a really good line. But other than this, I don't really feel like Joseph is saying a whole lot. I feel like he can bring up a topic, but then he doesn't really elaborate on it or continue on it. He brings up so many characters and so many different events and things that it's just a very difficult verse to follow. He also has some lyrics that are not that great, in my opinion. For example, "Dominoes fall in like a place, like an album I showcase. Guess my value like show us your case. Deal or no deal, what's in the case for me? Fortune on the wheel like spin me please. If I get too close, please don't call it Jeopardy." And I get the whole game show reference thing, but personally I don't think it adds a whole lot to the actual song. because I don't really fully know exactly what he's talking about outside of just trying to throw in some game show thing. Um, I think that the game show section should add to the actual song and make sense in the track, but unfortunately it doesn't really. And also, in my opinion, the delivery and the production is kind of bland until you get to the actual Beautiful Dreamer sample at the end. I think that Joseph should have switched up his delivery a little bit more. Maybe he could have gone melodic with some things. I think this would be a great track for to show off his vocals and show off his singing as opposed to just rapping the whole time. Because overall, his rapping tends to be a little choppy at times, and that usually takes me out of the track. Um, I think the Beautiful Dreamer sample is really good. It's just my only thing with this song is all the things that I like, for the most part, pretty much don't have anything to do with Joseph. So, yeah, that one's definitely my least favorite one. And from here, the next track, it gets a little bit better, but I mean, still not that much better because he blatantly rips off Maybe Another Day by Quedeca. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he literally looked up on YouTube Maybe Another Day type beat when he made this song. And look, it's one thing if you use a type beat like that, but it's a whole nother thing to continue to rip him off in the actual delivery and everything. Like, I think he really needed to work a little bit harder in order to actually make this a unique song, even if the beat sounds very similar. Because he even had some flows that sounded very similar. I think the melody on the hook sounded way too close to some of the melodies that Quedeca used in his own track, and also the high-pitched vocal at least changed the mix a little bit too to make it truly unique. I think in this song, he blatantly rips off Quedeca. While it may be better than the track before it, it still isn't unique. That's my main issue, is it isn't unique. And also the lyric, filling the void with emptiness. I don't know how you fill the void with nothing, but I digress. So the song itself isn't bad, okay? It's not bad. It's just, I can't really praise it when all the things that I like about it are just copied from the source material. But thankfully, after this, the album picks up again in quality with the lead single, Where Did You Go? Which, yes, I can hear the Quedeca influences here, and also Quedeca literally has his own song called Where'd You Go, but at least it's not like a blatant ripoff of that, whereas the previous song was. But in my opinion, I have to say, this song is truly amazing. I really like this song. I also think it was a great single choice, where it has the intro going into some of the history of Tucson, Arizona, where Joseph was originally from. I think it perfectly set up some of the themes for the album, which I think a single really needs to do. Like, singles should basically be like trailers for your album. And I think Joseph executed this perfectly. Really picked the single well. And just on top of that, it's just a great song. It's a really, really good song. I interpret it in multiple ways, On one hand, you have, Where Did You Go? Like, physically, literally, where did you go? You left Arizona, literally, where'd you go? But on the other hand, I can also interpret it as, where did he go mentally? Because in Arizona, he's all happy, he had all his friends, knew everybody there, he enjoyed living in Arizona. But then he moved, and he started to spiral. So what happened? Where did he go? Where mentally? So I interpret it both of those ways. Also have to say, love the lyrics on this entire thing as well. I love the delivery on it. I think this is one of the only songs I've heard from Joseph where I don't have a single problem with his flow on the entire song. It's one of the few rap songs where his flow doesn't take me out of it. I think he flows amazingly, especially with a couple lines leading up to the hook. He flows perfectly. And just the energy on the actual hook, where did you go? Where did you go? It's really good. It's amazing. And I also love the production choices that he had. I don't think he actually produced the song, but I think he at least went in there and added his own sort of spin on it, because as the song progresses, the 808s and the drums, they start shifting from the middle, and he starts to pan them to the left and to the right. And I think this is a really cool little detail, little subtle thing that just got me a little excited. I just think it's really unique. I love it. I love the small details of making songs like this. So overall, this song is amazing, and I think it's tied with Drowning for my actual favorite song on the entire record. Drowning's probably my favorite like little chill song, but Where'd You Go? That's my favorite hype song, my favorite banger. But from here, we move on to the final section, the acceptance section, which begins with To a New Place interlude. And this one's probably more personal to me because I know all the people that made cameos in this one. But I also love to see the growth in Joseph's mindset. We're moving out of the regret stage. He's not really going to be living in denial as much. He's now accepting that this is his new home. He's finally accepting it. And I love to see that growth in the mindset. And I think Joseph does this really well in general all across the album, is just detail the exact emotions that he was feeling at each specific time. I think he splits it up perfectly. The track list flows really, really well. He does a great job at that, even if I'm not a big fan of every single track. He is now open to the idea that this is now his home. North Carolina is now home to him. And the end of the track translates to goodbye to home, hello to new home, with friends, family, and people who support what I love. I think that's a really good ending to the interlude and really transitions well into the next song, This Way, featuring yours truly, which will carry on these themes of acceptance. This song is all about, getting through trauma, getting through that thing. And I'm really appreciative that Joseph had me on this track. I think that I was probably a pretty good feature choice just because I've been through my own little traumas and my own experiences, and I can relate to this song. So I think that I'm also biased when reviewing this one, but I'll just say that I think the delivery overall is really good. I like the sample. I think the production is really good, and I thought this when he first sent the track to me. I really like the production. I think the drum patterns really unique and really good. I like the 808 melodies and the guitar melodies. I think that it's just really good. Overall, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this song because I'm biased, but I do love the song. I really do. But I was also involved in its creation, so I am very biased towards it. But I will say, got to give Joseph props on this as well. This is one of my favorite transitions on the whole album, where you have the static from some sort of like radio static at the end of This Way that transitions into the actual song My Radio. I think that was a great transition. Unfortunately, I can't really say that the actual song My Radio is amazing. It is definitely not my favorite. I like the concept of it overall, like a song called My Radio having 3 different beats, indicating like 3 different radio stations. You get the concept. I do like the concept, but Joseph's performance over each of the beats kind of takes me out of it a little bit, unfortunately. For example, the first beat, dude, it hits so hard. You got that sample leading up to the actual beat drop. The beat drop comes, but Joseph's flow and his delivery really takes me out of this one. And I really am kind of disappointed about that. I think this song could have been really good, but it's just the choppy flow. Like, there's some aspects that I like. I like some of the lyrics that he has. The Sherlock Holmes reference where he continues to say he doesn't have the Watts in his brain to comprehend. Watson, Holmes and Watson. Get it? But unfortunately, that cool little bit is not enough to save the track. His delivery needs to be good. I need to get my head bobbing, but I can't really do that when he has this choppy flow. And then, unfortunately, the second verse is even worse for me because there he doesn't have any cool lyrics like he had on the first one. He immediately takes me out of it by having the line "talent flow like a stream," and then he continues with the choppiness. I like the jazzy beat and everything. I think the production's honestly really good. It's just his flow, that one line, really pulls me out of it. He has some other cool aspects again. Music is the outlet and life is the plug. I like that line. I like the Toby Mac references with shout out to his album This Is Not a Test. But it's once again just not enough to really save the track. And I gotta be honest, I love the final verse, but unfortunately, I had to go through the first and second verse to get there. I just wish, honestly, the whole track was kind of like the end. But he obviously couldn't do that because he borrowed it from Sean Phenomenon. I mean, he changes the lyrics some to convey a different message for his album and make it fit. Um, but overall, this one little section cannot save the whole song for me. I do really like his vocals, his vocal performance on it. I think the autotune, once again, fits his vocals really, really well. I like the little soft piano. I do kind of like all the different styles that he has across the song, but he just doesn't really execute it. He doesn't really execute it very well, in my opinion. And also, this is one instance where I think the transition wasn't really needed. I wish that the little soft piano kind of faded out more, and he had a little bit of space in between this one and Floating Through the Sky. But I will say he clearly was obviously still thinking tracklist wise like this, because he had the little Sean sample, and then it transitions into the actual song with Sean on it. So I do think that's kind of cool. But overall, that song, I don't know, it's just kind of mid in my opinion. But Floating Through the Sky, at least, is an absolute banger. This song is great. This is a banger if I ever heard one. It doesn't really contain much of the themes from the actual album. It kind of drifts away from that, but you don't need stuff like that on every single song. You can have one song that kind of drifts away. Yeah, honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this song. I do really like how Sean transitions from melodic singing into actual rapping on his verse. I really like his ad-libs on the hook and everything. The hook is really, really catchy on this one too. Phenomenal job with that. Joseph does make some I Didn't Mean to Haunt You Quadeco references on his last verse, really showing more so that he is very influenced by him. But I don't really have a problem with that because at least he's not ripping him off. But that song, banger. And from here we get to the final real actual song of the album, I'm Alright Now, which is a reference to the earliest song in his current discography, I'm Okay Now. And yeah, honestly, this song is also not my favorite. Does have some cool lyrics which carry on the themes of acceptance, and I think it closes out the album well. I think it is a good closer. I think it wraps up all the themes and everything well. I especially like the line, "Home loved me for who I was, this place loves me for who I'm gonna be." But other than that, I'm not really a big fan of this song because I don't think he switches up the delivery that much or enough to make the song really interesting. I wish the beat switched up a little bit more. I mean, he had some strings in there, but I just wish it built on each other a whole lot more than it does. I also am not the biggest fan of the whole, "oh, the album's done, I can't believe it" thing. I'm not really a big fan of that. I've done it before. I didn't like it when I did it. So I'm definitely not a big fan when someone else does it either. I don't know. I just think it's kind of corny to end your album like that. I also don't think you need the destination outro, honestly, at all, because the outro of I'm Alright Now is already kind of long as it is. So you don't really need to go transition it into just another instrumental track. I think I'm Alright Now should have been the last song on the album, personally. So, overall, Craxis the Journey is a very big improvement from his last LP. However, it is not perfect. It is far from perfect. My main critiques: the flow is pretty choppy on a majority of the songs. So for me, I tend to really gravitate more towards his singing. I like the auto-tune vocals personally, and I'd rather him have a lot more melodic stuff than he does, because his rapping is just way too choppy and can be difficult to follow sometimes. Like sometimes I'm trying to bob my head to something, but it's kind of difficult when his flow is as choppy as it is. I also think Joseph, going forward, needs to work a little bit harder on not wearing his influences on his sleeve, because it is very, very clear that he loves Quadeca. More Time sounds exactly like Quadeca ripoff. He uses Quadeca type beats on a lot of songs, and even like the mountain visuals that he has throughout it, that comes directly from Me to You, the album from Quadeca. Except in Quadeca's album, it makes sense because it's themed around a mountain. It's themed over the rise and fall and all that stuff. The summit. You got the summit songs. This, on Craxis the Journey, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to include mountain stuff because, I mean, you're going from Arizona deserts. Sure, Arizona has mountains and stuff, but not. This is Colorado. I'm sorry. That's Colorado. That really doesn't have anything to do with this move or this album. So I think he probably could have had more like desert visuals instead, and then move on when he gets to North Carolina, move into more like beach visuals and stuff like that, instead of having just mountain visuals the whole time. Because the whole mountain thing doesn't really make sense in this album. So all in all, it is better than his first one. I'm feeling a strong 6 on this one. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Nathan Harms, JDS, forever.